Welcome, everybody, to A Flawed Man of God. Sorry for being late this evening. I am here, happy, and showing off my new background. Showing off my new background because Blaine's here, and I know he'll appreciate it. All right, everybody, how's it going? My name's Stuart Davis, Flawed Man of God. I am here to talk to you about the faith. A deacon at a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. Not a pastor, not a biblical scholar, and I haven't been to seminary. Not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause. What I'm here to do is talk about God, talk about Jesus, talk about the Holy Spirit, talk about the Bible, talk about Christianity, and talk about different topics, issues, and current events, and give you my perspective on them. One that I think is reflective of your average Christian guy. Been a Christian all my life, 40 years, non-denominational Protestant. Don't subscribe to any particular doctrine or denomination. I'm just in the Word daily, trying to do it right, trying to do it better each and every day. Sometimes I get it right, many times I'll get it wrong. But regardless, as I adjust this camera, if you see me on here streaming, you can count on getting my honest takes and opinions on whatever it is we're discussing. So, if you're somebody who is interested in learning more about Jesus, learning more about Christianity, maybe becoming one, out there searching for answers. Maybe there's a voice in the back of your mind wondering if there's more to this existence than just your life here on earth. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. Hopefully, you can get something out of this. Hopefully, the environment that I am providing here is one that you'll find conducive to learning more about Jesus. And maybe you want to hear something more than the professionals at the pulpit, right? Folks who maybe do this for a living. Maybe you think there might be a conflict of interest there or something. I don't know. Maybe you just want to hear it from the guy next to you, the guy who's been in your shoes before, the guy who is trying to figure it all out as well. And that's what I'm going to be here doing. I am the guy sitting next to you in the pew. I am the guy who's going to give you the layperson approach in a very comfortable and relaxed setting. And hopefully you can get the answers you need to help springboard you into a relationship with God. And that would be one of the greatest things I could think of doing for a person. The greatest thing I could think of doing for a person is putting them on the path to salvation, helping to put, or just at least assisting to put someone on the path to salvation. If you're already a Christian, though, and you just enjoy Christian discussions and topics, welcome as well. Glad to have you here. We run this very similar to a Wednesday night study group or a Sunday school. But whether you are wanting to just learn more about Christianity, or you have been a Christian forever and you know more about the faith than I do, you're more mature in your faith than I am, well, I don't care. I want you in the chat. I want you in the chat like these folks who are here. We've got a great community here. I was bragging on you guys today, talking about how awesome it is that I've got you guys to comment, to set me up for tangents and different discussions, monologues, giving me your impressions. I want to hear your opinions. This is a show, especially when we're a small community as we are. This is a show where you have an opportunity to share your opinion with the host, with the audience, and tell us what's going on. What is your experiences? What are you getting out of this? What are your questions? What are your answers? And we'll discuss them. Like I said, pop into the chat. Let me know what you're doing, and I'll read what you have to say. And then with that said, welcome everybody. Yes, I'm a little late tonight. We've got some family that's coming into town this evening. Flight's been delayed, so we're wondering if I have to go be the shuttle to because perhaps the rental agency may be closed by the time this flight gets in. So just putting that. So we were just trying to work out the logistics behind that. I don't mind. I love to drive. It's fun for me and I enjoy it. But I'm glad to see so many people popping in. Veritax, here we go. Dresden, Nico, Blaine, Porcupine, Matt Felty, Texan Italian. That's a good group of guys right there. Sorry, I've got the cup of ice tonight. What was I going to say? Oh, Mr. Chaco wanted to express his sincere apology. I told him not to apologize, that technical issues are technical issues, and things outside of your control are not worth you apologizing over. We are going to make that stream happen again, but he was really frustrated about it. He really was excited and wanted to bring that discussion to this show. And not only did that affect him on this stream, but it also prevented him from streaming himself later on. But hopefully his internet is back up and he has got a full plate next week with some more Catholic folks. Like I said, he is a staunch Catholic. So when you tune into his channel, you're going to be getting a very Catholic vibe to it. So Veritax open it up with the veil is lifted on another chapter. Will Job have the final word for Eliphaz? Will Bildad be so brief that Job has to let him have it? We will see. Wink. We are actually going to do 3 chapters tonight. We're going to do 3 chapters tonight because the second chapter is so short, and actually because we're actually going to start off. Job's continuing to talk from the last readings we did. Bildad's going to respond. Bildad's response is very short, and then Job comes back and talks some more. I like having the jerk talk first, and then have Job come behind him as we're reading through this. So I want to keep that kind of theme going. We're going to have Job continue. Then we're going to have the jerk talk, and then we're going to have Job continue. And by jerk, I mean one of his friends that are supposed to be his friends, but not being very good friends with him. Dresden says hi. Hello, Dresden. Nico says hi. Hello, Dresden. Blaine says late? Yes. What series is that? Don't know. Very 8th MS team look to it, though. You should record an intro and load it first. Dude, you know how cool it would be for me to have like a Gundam or Mecha intro to this show? That would be awesome. Awesome. I don't know who I would go to commission it. I don't know how I would go about getting it done, but I would love to have that. I'd love to have that done. Have you ever explained what deacon means? No, but eventually when we get to our readings, it will naturally come up. But if anybody wants to know what a deacon is, it is basically you are a facilitator, a project leader, right, or a ministry leader of some sort, like of a job sense. Like, so when they were setting up the early church, right, you had elders that were supposed to run things. But, if you've got 6 elders and 1,000 people or 1,500 people or 2,000 people, it might be too much for just 5 elders to maintain. You need squad leaders, right? You need sergeants. And so the deacons are set up really as helpers, right? Helpers who are held in high esteem, folks men who live a biblical life, right? Who fall into certain categories as defined in the New Testament, and who can take charge of needs within the church and get them done so that The elders can focus on leading the church. So to feel somewhat, it makes you less lay. No, I would be. I am actually what many in high church positions would consider a lay deacon. In the Catholic Church, I would be considered a lay deacon because I've not been to any type of schooling for it. But yeah. Deacon, that's from Blaine. Veritex said deacon is originated in Acts when the Hellenistic Jews in the church said that they had needs that weren't being met. They set aside 7 men to minister to the need. Exactly. Needs. My church has needs, and I'm here to satisfy them. Porcupine saying good evening. Good evening, sir. Matt Felty with a wave. How's it going? Texan Italian with a very Texan hey, y'all, and I'm not a very Italian hey, y'all. Veritex, in Baptist churches, the role may be overloaded with other responsibilities since you don't hear them talk about the elder office much. In some Baptist churches, there are no elders at the church. You have like a board of deacons, right? And they kind of run things like an eldership. Where, and I don't know exactly how that works because I'm non-denominational. I'm not a Baptist, as opposed to all the jokes. And yeah, I think that has something to do with they have a more structured hierarchy. If you're part of different Baptist organizations, I don't know. Never been part of it, but a buddy of mine, he is the lead deacon at his church, which would be kind of like the head of the elders at my church. Said it's like Sunday school, except you can be naked. This comes from Blaine. Hopefully he is, he's in his house. You can be naked if you want. I don't care. Do what you want to do. Emmanuel Osorio. Glad you didn't miss tonight's. Tried to sneak one in with an early episode last night. Glad you can make it. Let's go. Another show. Ashamed I couldn't see yesterday's show, but I'll catch up with it soon enough. It's that show was full of a lot of interruptions due to nobody's fault. But I feel like I tried to close it out on a positive note. Veritex said, yeah, it's not Chaco's fault. That internet infrastructure let him down. It's all between him and us. He'll be back on. And I'd love to know what language they'll be using in those meetings, though, and will it be Latin? That's a good question. Blaine said, in my Baptist church, you had the elders in the ministry governing role, then deacons who were basically the guys who passed the plates. Most of the time in my church, deacons were passing the plates, but it wasn't all deacons who did that. Basically, a deacon thing is a repetition of Jethro's advice. Yes, there you go. Pulling it back to the Old Testament. I think my childhood church was ABWE or something. That sounds like wrestling. Plain. Oh, he's in a towel now. Oh, that's good. That's good. Finished laying pavers today. Did you do that naked? Wait, hold up. I don't need to know. If you did it like that, awesome. If not, great. Great. What was that scene from It's Always Sunny? What was the guy's name? When Dennis gets out and it's the heat wave and he just starts stripping naked in front of the guy. Have you ever been in a storm? I think it's Larry. Have you ever been in a storm, Larry? Storm of fists punching you, raining down on your chest and your face. Have you ever been in a storm like that? Is Wally? Maybe it's Wally. Can't remember. And you scream. Like I feel like that's how things go on in my head when I'm upset. That's how so much plays out. I know I'm laughs and smiles on here, but I get very angry inside sometimes at what goes on. Veritex, some churches conflate pastor role with elders, and while there may be similar responsibilities, yes, some churches are elder led, some churches are pastor led. I don't like a pastor led church. I feel like there's too much. There's already a propensity for you get caught up in a cult of personality for some person, but with pastor led church, I feel like it's too much of a temptation, right? And pastors need to focus on ministering to the flock. Elders need to focus on running the church. So, and some churches conflate the role with pastor to mean or elder or deacon to mean anything, any person. I have opinions on that, and now that's for another episode. Wally, I'm not getting into it. Wallies, I'm gonna start calling y'all Wallies. Been in a storm, Wallies. Veritex, and I think pastor is a role that should exist on its own, or should, but for some reason we ignore it as Baptists. My Presbyterian roots on that one still itch. Can you be, Veritex, maybe you can answer, can you be a Presbyterian and not be a Calvinist? Or do you have to be a Calvinist if you're a Presbyterian? What I mean is they claim the pastoral, senior, associate, youth, child worship are the elders. I think that's not scriptural. That's not. That might be that, and but I don't know. Again, I can't answer for Baptist, but I want to feel like that's not how they run it at all Baptist church. There are very few, but there are Bible Presbyterians that dunk for baptism. I mean, hey, to me that's the way to do it. The Orthodox does it, even for the babies. Let's look infant baptism for Orthodox. If you guys haven't seen it, you're gonna find out tonight. We're gonna do this real quick. The first one's great. All right, let's see. Stop screen. Present share screen. Oh, you're gonna see it dunking. You can see it dunking like a donut. All right, you guys ready? You guys ready for this? You guys ready for this? Look at that! Look at the look on this kid. This kid already knows what's gonna ready to happen. Boom! Up, down. Oh yeah! You're getting the full immersion. Woo! He's not happy. Oh, here's another one. Oh no! You get the get the face there. It's like, what just happened to me? The Holy Spirit has entered me forcefully. Look at her. Look, wait, hold on. Look at her face. I would pay money. I wish I had been baptized like that at 14. I wish they had like a dunker like that. John Smoth, welcome to the chat. It is wild. It is wild, and they're talking about Georgia like in Russia, like it doesn't just happen there. That's how they do it. You don't get the sprinkle like in the gentle Catholic christening ceremony. No, Orthodox, you're going hard, hard. We're gonna do it orthodoxically. It's like, look again, like Blaine's Baptist of organization of his old church. You're doing it world wrestling style. Ooh. Blaine said, "Odd. The U.S. system makes it more odd. The U.S. system, it makes more sense to have elders form the board, and pastor, youth pastor, music pastor, etc. Were all like manager positions. So here you'll hear a criticism of me for my own church. We voted years ago to have." We already had the elder board. The elder runs the church. It's an independent church. It exists fully on its own, completely independent. The elders run the church. We voted, and it made sense at the time because we weren't using foresight to make the pastor a voting member of the elder board. Well, our pastor at the time was an older gentleman, very wise. If he hadn't been a pastor, he would definitely be a candidate for eldership. I would have supported him being elder. When he retired and we got a younger guy who was our current pastor, he's our current pastor. He is not somebody who I believe would be an elder at all, even under consideration to be an elder, if he wasn't a pastor. And now we feel like now there's some of us who are like, maybe we didn't think this one through. Yeah. I have opinions on that. Like I said, guys, I'm gonna do a Discord video on it. I did it once, did it live. I want to figure out how to do it and record it. I don't know. If you aren't supposed to dunk, why did that one guy shout about an oasis to get dunked in? Fairtex said it's the elder role Baptists don't talk about that got the words misplaced trying to fit in tiny YouTube chat. John Smoth, I love this. This is the me tonight. I'd pay money to be baptized like that. Ain't no Achilles heel for the devil here. Man, what am I watching, a baby dunking contest? Blaine said it was like a choke slam when I was baptized. Veritax said, in my opinion, the Presbyterian system is about the church is run from the people, not from a higher organization like the Catholics are. Yeah, non-denominational churches, that's about as pure a system as that it can be. Like my church it's run from the people. We select the elders. The elders select the deacons. The elders can hire or fire the pastor. We have bylaws, we have governing, we have a charter and all that other stuff. Veritex, and I can crib some notes on that. Baptists often tend to be that way too, and they tend to have elders and deacons as separate roles. We do too. They above, meaning the presbys versus the Baptists. Oh, okay. Veritex says, I'm shocked how much Baptist tradition is rooted in Reformed and Calvinistic thinking in the Confessions. I never knew it until recently. Be careful there. There are Reformed Baptists out there, 1619 Reformed Calvinistic Baptists, and there are very anti-Calvinistic Baptists. Baptists are all over the map when it comes to that. And it's weird because you'll find Calvinistic theology throughout a lot of other, the other Paul, he's an Anglican, but he's also a Calvinist. He's not a Presbyterian. There are even Reformed Catholics out there, believe it or not. Fairdex, so sorry I just used you, my brethren, as a reason for my mom to call me back another night. That's fine. We're here. We're all bros here. Unfortunately, we know there are no women here. Wait, hold on. Let me do my Monty Python Life of Brian. Are there any women here today? Alex Moore's in the chat. Welcome, sir. Look at the baby's face. Exactly. You gonna share that link in the Discord? I will. Um, you're right. Not 1619, 1689 Baptist. John Smoth. Thank you. I haven't seen your Nath in a while. I need somebody sitting here to bunsman me, fact check me as we go through that. 1619. I'm trying to SJW and critical race theory the Baptists. Some of them do that to themselves. Do you have a final vote by church body for pastor that is appointed? We do. We do. At ours. At least for our last one. Alex said, oh my goodness, if I can't find a pharmacy, I find a Baptist church where I am. For what? Oh, John said, I used to be a Reformed Baptist. I know. I had to know that. Yeah. Thank you for catching me up on that. I didn't know they existed until I started looking around. Presby churches, elders sometimes include the pastor. I think they work together, in my opinion. They do. They should work together. It is different. It is different when it is a kind of an employer-employee relationship. But in this case, it's not. You're not running it like a business. You're running it like with a mission. You're running it like a nonprofit, right? You're running it with something to be done. Veritek said, whether the elders vet pastoral candidates or they have a secondary committee within it, the congregation has to vote. And if it's not really high percentage, a lot of pastors won't come. It's a difficult job. John Smott says, I'm not a Calvinist anymore. Don't tell my mom. Well, you can use us as an excuse like Veritex did, if it ever comes to that. Veritex said maybe it's different close to Richmond. I don't know. I think it varies. I just think it varies church to church. Pharmacy on every corner. Yeah. That's like that in my hometown here in Mechanicsville. You can't throw it. You can't swing a dead cat without hitting a church around here. Blaine said, growing up, I always thought that the Baptist difference was that we had baptism as a choice that must be made and not in infant dunking, although every non-denomination has the same thing. Yeah, and that's kind of why we get lumped in with the Baptists all the time. Charismatics, Pentecostals, non-denominationals, Baptists, think some Presbyterians, I think. I don't know. Lutherans still do infant pedobaptism. Catholics obviously are like that. Orthodox are like that. But that's the credo baptism versus the pedo baptism argument, and it gets heated. Personally, I'm an Anabaptist. I think that you need to be understanding, have some sort of conceptualized understanding of God in order to be baptized. I'm actually meeting with a preacher for next week to talk about how do I talk to my kids about that? What do I know? If one of my kids comes up to me and says, hey, I feel like it's time to be baptized, what do I need? What questions do I need to ask? What am I looking for? To make sure it's the right time and make sure that I'm asking the right question. John Smoth, Blaine says, John, don't worry. She knows it wasn't your choice. Yeah, that's my favorite Calvinist joke. The problem with the Presby system is the pastors form a presbytery group that meets regionally. Elders, there is a tension there at times. At the last Baptist church I went to, I couldn't get anyone to tell me who the elders were. Yeah, sometimes they don't know. I have that problem at our church. and and there's only about 100 of us. It's not a perfect place. We have room for improvement. John Smith said, I live in Canada, so there's a lot shop on every corner, a pot shop on every corner. Legit, what's the difference in theology between Baptists and non-denominationals? We dance and drink alcohol. There are um and again it varies. Veritex is saying non-denominations are we often lean, like I said, we do have a lot of similarities with Baptists, sometimes more charismatic Pentecostal. That's when you get to the more evangelical churches. I think they're the ones that lean more charismatic Pentecostal. A lot of times evangelical churches are non-denominational churches. I'll say what I want to say, Blaine. It's my stream, damn it. Um, that's kind of what if you're looking at us on the spectrum, that's where you'll really find us in between uh the Baptists and the Pentecostals and the evangelicals. But often they just don't like the idea of denominations because they say the idea is divisive and not unity. Yeah, we had a sermon about a year ago, maybe a little bit more than a year ago, at church, and the uh, preacher was talking about um, schism and how God doesn't like schism, and that there's 30,000 denominations, which is a Catholic talking point. He didn't really vet that one out. That's a often debunked Catholic trope that they use. But he doesn't like division. I'm sitting there going, dude, are you? I was like, I get it that God doesn't like schism, but you're preaching to a non-denominational church. Do we need to go be Orthodox now? Do we need to go be Catholics now? What do we need to do? Like, how are you following this up? How do you reconcile that to the congregation, what you're talking about? Very, very poorly delivered. It was never my point. Pedo is a cursed prefix. Matt Felty said, I traveled to Georgia last month to witness my niece's husband and great nephew's baptism. Wonderful thing to witness. God is great. God bless your niece's husband and your great nephew getting baptized. What do you mean you don't know? Is this a game of Clue? John Smoth, non-denoms are on the spectrum. Got it. Hey, to be a Christian is to be on the spectrum. Have you been to church? Personally, to me, Veritex said, personally to me, water is water. Submission to the ordinance matters. That it's done in faith matters. But as one evangelist said, if you only believe in your head, then dunk that head under. If you believe in your toe, the toe. That's a good one, actually. But if you believe with all your soul, put the whole man under. I like that. That's very good. That's very good. All right. I'm caught up. You guys are chatty tonight, and I like it. I like it. It's like to be a Christian. How daggone it, John. To be a Christian is the name of the ACNA Catechism. Time to convert to Anglicanism. No, no. The Anglicans, like Anglicans, there's good Anglicans out there. Like I said, Other Paul, great Anglican. Um, there's a guy, I'm trying to remember his name. His handle on Twitter is No Jesuit Tricks. But he's Anglican, and that's And like I said, there's good Methodists out there. You got, but those denominations are struggling with some weird stuff. Glad I don't belong to a denomination. I don't have to answer to anybody but my own church and myself. Why do you keep asking about Babel? Can a baby what? Blaine, what are you doing? Speaking of autism, Blaine is in the chat, people. He's on one tonight. He is in rare form. All right, guys. Let's get to the matter at hand. We are a half hour in. I said this is good. This is a good intro. This is a good intro. But we're gonna get into Job. Let's share the screen. There it is. Hey! John Smith said, found out my wife is pregnant with kid 4 today. Say Hail Marys for us. Did you say Hail Mary, John? We will definitely be praying for you. Congratulations. Well done. Well done. My brother just had his 4th. I just had my 3rd. Dude, God is great. And as Matt Felty said, God is great. Amen. Amen. Good for you, John. I know that feeling. Make you feel like a real man, because I mean, it's big. That's a big part of it. All right, so when we last left off, we were doing this back and forth with Job and his friends. Job says something, then one of his pals says something back, and then Job responds, and then another friend chimes in, and then Job responds, and another friend chimes in. Eliphaz was the last to talk. Or I'm sorry, was the last to talk to Job. And Job, and obviously he is accusing and exhorts Job. We see that in 22. But Job says, "Hey, I love God. I want to be with God." That's not Job's struggling. This is a struggle session that he's having with these quote unquote friends of his who have been deceived by Satan, deceived by their own biases, and to the point where they're not giving their buddy the benefit of the doubt, not treating him like a good friend, and accusing him of things that they don't know. And Eliphaz finally went and did it, and just said, "Hey, you must have done something like this." He finally named the sins. He named them, right? Naming the sins. Of course, Job was not guilty of them, so he's making it up. Oh, that's a big violation of the commandment. Of course, it wasn't there yet. What's going on, Jab? These commandments hadn't been established yet, but understanding the fact that those commandments do eventually get set tells you how important that is. Eliphaz is bearing false witness against his neighbor, and supposedly a good friend of his. And so here we are. So Job has responded to him, but then he's going to talk some more. And this is a question that a lot of people have. This is really going to. This particular chapter talks a little bit about what a lot of people say when they struggle with belief in God. If God real, why bad thing happen? And Job is going to kind of Job isn't going to go if God real. Job is going to just say, why do bad things happen? And it starts off with Job says God seems to ignore wrongs. Job is being honest. And I think Job has been honest because, look, just part of his nature, right? That you would assume he's a good dude, righteous man. Part of being righteous is being honest. He's not just being honest with his friends. He's being honest just out in the open. This is just I'm putting it out there. I'm lamenting. I need to speak about this. I've lost so much. And I'm confused and I feel alone, more alone probably than we can ever imagine. Because even at the he has been so isolated to the point where his family is gone, his wife is not present, right? She hasn't left him probably, but she's not spending any time around him. She's not being supportive of him, except to say, "Why don't you die?" Um, and now his friends show up, and they're not really being friendly. Um, so Job is just crying out for justice. So let's get into the reading. Job says God seems to ignore wrongs. Why does the Almighty not set seasons for judgment? Why do those who know him not see his days for punishment of the wicked? Some remove the landmarks. They violently seize and pasture flocks, appropriating land and flocks openly. They drive away the donkeys of the orphans. They take the widow's ox for a pledge. They crowd the needy off the road. The poor of the land all hide themselves. Behold, behold, as wild donkeys in the desert, the poor go to their work, diligently seeking food as bread for their children in the desert. They harvest their fodder in a field that is not their own and glean the vineyard of the wicked. They spend the night naked, without clothing, and have no covering against the cold. They are wet from the rain of the mountains and cling to the rock for lack of shelter. Others snatch the fatherless, infants from the breast to sell or to make them slaves. And against the poor they take a pledge of clothing. They cause the poor to go about naked without clothing, and they take away the sheaves of grain from the hungry. Within these walls of the wicked, the poor make olive oil. They tread the grapes in the wine presses, but thirst. From the populous and crowded city, men groan, and the souls of the wounded cry out for help. Yet God seemingly does not pay attention to the wrong done to them. Others have been with those who rebel against the light. They do not want to know its ways, nor stay in its paths. The murderer rises at dawn. He kills the poor and the needy, and at night he becomes a thief. The eye of the adulterer waits for the twilight, saying, "No eye will see me," and he covers his face. In the dark they dig into the penetrable walls of houses. They shut themselves up by day. They do not know the light of day. For the morning is the same to him as the thick darkness of midnight, for he is familiar with the terrors of thick darkness. They are insignificant on the surface of the water. Their portion is cursed on the earth. They do not turn toward the vineyards. Drought and heat consume the snow waters. So does Sheol, the nether world, the place of the dead, consume those who have sinned. A mother will forget him. The worm feeds on him until he is no longer remembered, and the wickedness will be broken like a tree which cannot be restored. He preys on the barren, childless woman and does no good for the widow. Yet God draws away the mighty by his power. He rises, but no one has assurance of life. God gives them security, and they are supported, and his eyes are on their ways. They were exalted for a little while, and then they are gone. Moreover, they are brought low, and like everything, they are gathered up and taken out of the way. Even like the heads of grain, they are cut off. And if this is not so, who can prove me a liar and make my speech worthless? Veritex says, unfortunately, we have the benefit of the cross, acts, and epistles to know that this grace is the time opportunity to move in faith toward God. If God judged right at the moment of sin, there would be no repentant sinners, only condemned ones. Oh dear, the Durs are putting a Dur at home on Thursday night before halftime. Oh, or the Commanders. If they're losing to the Bears, that's embarrassing. I might put the game on later. I don't know. I don't watch much football anymore. So Job is kind of wondering. This is Job being real, being relatable. Um, these are guys who take advantage of the weak and the vulnerable, widows, orphans. Again, big time, especially in that culture. Those are the weak and vulnerable. Um, and looking out for them is a responsibility for the community. But there are folks who don't do that. They go in and murder people. They steal. They cheat. They commit adultery, right? They cheat. They push the needy off the side of the road, clear the way, get out of the way. We treat you like fodder. Why doesn't God do anything about that? That's something, again, we've all asked, we kind of all ask ourselves at one point, why doesn't God do something about that? Why does God let this happen? Why does God let that guy do the things that he did? Right? The Jeffrey Epsteins, right? Folks like that. Insert ex politician into this discussion to talk about our current president. How did he or past presidents? How does someone like Joe Biden make it through life doing the things that he's done and get away with it? How does um, Mitch McConnell or AOC or any of these people, how do they get away with being as corrupt? How do they get away with all the cheating, the lying? And all of it is intentional. All of it is intentional. They might do it because they think that the ends justify the means, and that's how they justify it to themselves. But that doesn't make it right. Just because you can rationalize it in your mind doesn't mean that it's right in the eyes of God. It doesn't mean that you're fooling anybody else. So you want to fool some people. Politicians, it's so much of that is celebrity status. Right? You're going to have people fawning all over you. Right? But how much corruption do you have to put up with? How much corruption do you have to partake in to get where you want to go? To get into local office, to become a state representative, to be a congressional um, representative, to be a senator, to be a governor, be president. Hmm. It's a lot. It's a lot. We talk about John McCain. Uh, Divorced his wife, married a rich woman, and ran for office. Won Senate, became a senator, and died in office. And I remember um, we were doing maneuvers with the Arizona National Guard, and it was during the 2008 election. So obviously, we asked the guys at the Arizona National Guard. Um, these are Black Hawk pilots and crew chiefs and mechanics and everything. So these are guys because we're on the same. We're sharing a flight line. We're sharing a mission with them, and we're like, hey, how is John McCain? Right? He's running for office. He's running for president. He's from your state. A lot of times the National Guard. You get a little bit. You get kind of a closer view than most normal citizens do because whatever. And for the most part, they couldn't stand the guy. They didn't like him because he was disrespectful to him. He said he doesn't want to, he never flies with us. He refuses to fly in our helicopters because he says we're not the real military. We're not active duty. We're National Guardsmen. I'm talking about a guy who won't fly in helicopters operated by his constituents. The people who put him in office, the people of the state he represents, they're not good enough for him. Because he was a Navy pilot, got shot down, and became a POW. I didn't have any sympathy for him when Trump was arguing back and forth with him. But you can talk about Trump too. I like how this has become a rant on a rant on politicians. But you can talk about Trump too. All the things that he has done. That's definitely not, that dude does not have a clean record. And yet, billionaire, right? Billionaire. Why do people make it? This is kind of what Job is wondering about. He has been righteous. I'm getting there, Alex, daggone it. Job is a righteous man. Job knows he does the right things for the most part, more so than most others. We don't really know if Job really recognizes how righteous he is. We just know that God does. But I'm sure that Job has some reckoning that in large part, he's a good dude, right? He takes the effort, or he makes the effort to do the things that God wants him to do. And he seems to have been, seems to be well blessed. And then all of a sudden, it's all gone. All of it's gone. Why did that happen to me? Why didn't it happen to Eliphaz, who's sitting here accusing me of stuff, who I think it was Veritex or maybe somebody else going, man, he sounds like he might be projecting. Why didn't that happen to Eliphaz? Why didn't it happen to another guy who I know is a bad guy? Why didn't it happen to Corn Pop? He a bad dude. But that's what he's wondering about. And a lot of people have wondered that. But then I really like how Veritex put it. If God judged right at the moment of sin, there would be no repentant sinners, only condemned ones. But there's nobody there talking to Job about that. Instead, we've got Eliphaz, Bildad, and crap, what is his name? What's the other guy's name? Zophar. Instead, he's got those three knuckleheads, the three stooges. Well, stooge number 2 is going to respond here. Bildad says man is inferior. Chapter 25. Then Bildad the Shuhite answered and said, dominion and awe belong to God. He establishes peace and order in his high places. Is there any number to his vast celestial armies? And upon whom does his light not rise? How then can man be justified and righteous with God? Or how can he who is born of a woman be pure and clean? Misogyny! How can he who is born of a woman be pure and clean? Behold, even the moon has no brightness compared to God's majesty and glory, and the stars are not pure in his sight. How much less man than maggot, and the son of man that worm? Thanks, Bildad, for saying something that doesn't seem to apply to anything that Job was talking about. When Bildad could have come back like Veritax did and said, there's always a chance to turn back. God gives us opportunities to right wrongs, to get back on the path, to recognize the error of our ways. And oftentimes, God puts things in our lives to help us realize the error of our ways. The new the Duck Dynasty movie is out. Blind, I think it is, or something like that. I didn't know it was coming out until Sunday. But the story of Pat, not Pat, Phil Robertson, not Pat Robertson, Phil Robertson and Miss K. And I know a bit about it. Um, just from whatever, because um, Phil Robertson was not a great husband. He was not a great father early on. He did not live in a godly way. He lived in a very poor, very shabby way, and he mistreated his family. And he had to come to God and get right with himself before he became the man. If any of you guys watch Duck Dynasty, which I'm a big fan of, everybody, if you watch Duck Dynasty, to be the man that when confronted by A&E and all the and the job lynch mob, because he made a comment about how homosexuality is a sin, but we're all sinners, right? That when they came to him and be like, you need to apologize. You need to change what you said. You need to change what you believe in. And he said, no, my faith is more important than this stupid show I do. And they took him off and brought him right back on. Bildad doesn't use that opportunity. And I know that Job happens before Abraham chronologically. So we don't get to show the Bible and be like, hey, Bible's a redemption story. But I'm sure there's examples. We run into redemption stories throughout our lives. Sometimes ourselves, sometimes with friends, sometimes with family, sometimes with enemies, sometimes with people we don't know, but just people in the community. You just hear about it. A wise man, a good friend, would have taken that opportunity. Bildad just talks about how great God is and how worthless man is. Great job, Bildad. Great. Thanks for contributing nothing to the conversation other than stuff we already knew to a degree. But again, that maggot, that worm, we are God's creation, made in his image. Do we really want to be comparing ourselves to maggots and worms? I don't know about that. John Smoth says, Bildad is just angry because he is short. It's a very Nerneath answer. I like it. Bildad's just angry because he's running out of things to respond to Job with, I think. And Job rebukes Bildad. Good job, Job. Chapter 26. But Job answered and said, what a help you are to the weak and powerless. What good are you doing? What a help you are to the weak and powerless. How you have saved the arm that is without strength. How you have counseled the one who has no wisdom. And how abundantly have you provided sound wisdom and helpful insight. To whom have you uttered these words? And whose spirit inspired what came forth from you? Woohoo! Oh, now who's making the accusations? Job coming back, firing right at you. Who are you speaking to? And who put these words in your mouth? I think we've got some suspicions. The greatness of God. The spirits of the dead tremble underneath the waters and their inhabitants. Sheol, the netherworld, the place of the dead, is naked before God. And Abaddon, the place of destruction, has no covering from his eyes. Warhammer 40K fans, rise up. It is he who spreads out the north over emptiness and hangs the earth on nothing. He wraps the waters in his clouds, which otherwise would spill on earth all at once, and the cloud does not burst under them. He covers the face of the full moon and spreads his cloud over it. He has inscribed a circular limit, the horizon, on the face of the waters, at the boundary between light and darkness. The pillars of the heavens tremble and are terrified at his rebuke. He stirred up the sea by his power, and by his understanding he smashed proud Rahab. There's a notation there. Oh, legendary and horrifying sea monster. Okay. Do we have some context there? Just because it'll... Come on, I hate it when this dude... My computer tower is just far enough away. In medieval Jewish folklore, Rahab is a mythical sea monster, a dragon of the waters, and the demonic angel of the sea. It represents the primordial abyss, the water dragon of darkness and chaos, compared to Leviathan and Tiamat. Rahab later became a particular demon, inhabitant of the sea, especially associated with the Red Sea. In Babylonian captivity, it symbolized the Babylonian king and Satan, who is the king of the sinful world. Rahab is a name applied to the sea monster, the dragon, and is used as a designation for Egypt. Bible writers sometimes use the imagery of Rahab as a monster of chaos as a derogatory representation of Egypt, as in Isaiah 51:9. Rahab was the dragon of insolence and pride, responsible for shaking the waters and producing big waves, and he is responsible for the roaring of the sea. All that working around sounds like a typical Calvinist. Blaine says Sheol is way cooler name than hell. Dude, like I said, Wheel of Time fans, Sheol Ghoul is the land of the great destructor, right? The great enemy of the story in Wheel of Time, Sheol Ghoul. Like I said, Robert Jordan was a high Episcopalian. So anyway, I thought that was cool. And he stirred up the sea by his power, and by his understanding he smashed proud Rahab. By his breath the heavens are cleared. His hand has pierced the swiftly fleeing serpent. Yet these are just the fringes of his ways, mere samples of his power, the faintest whisper of his voice. Who can contemplate the thunder of his full mighty power? Yeah, it's like, yeah, I get it. I know how great God is, right? But nothing, because I can repeat this just like you did, Bildad. You didn't help anybody by what you said. I was talking about why do bad things happen, or why does God permit people to do bad things and get away with it? Why does he permit villains to exist? What do you respond with? Oh, who is man? He's nothing but a worm to God. Okay, thanks. Thanks, friend, again for nothing constructive here. Yomi is still cooler. Nah. John Smoth, I just finished Eye of the World today. That's the first one, right? Is that the first? Yeah, that's the first one. First book in Wheel of Time series. Oh, very. Um, I'm not going to give you any spoilers, John. Eye of the World is basically it was very good, and it to me what I'll be interested in seeing is look at the characters now, because I mean, there's 14 books in the series. Um, the character development between the first book and the two last books. Look at where they are now and see where they go from there. And see, Robert Jordan, I think, was an amateur writer who had a great story to tell, and he did a phenomenal job telling it. The structure was sometimes not great. Um, oh yeah, John, and they're all long. They are all long books. I'm on Team Tolkien on which fantasy book is better. Fantasy series is better. The Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings much better, and part of the reason is, um, Tolkien knew as much as he could branch off and talk about there's a story here and there's a story here and there's a story here. When it came to the actual story moving along, he did it in 3 books. 4 if you count The Hobbit. 4 if we count The Hobbit. There are points in the Wheel of Time series where you were like, what are we doing? Move along. But his characters are really good. The characters are really good. I listen to them on audio because I'm an audiobook listener for the most part. I've listened to I listened to the Wheel of Time series on audio. It took me a year and a half to finish that series. Listening to it pretty steadily. It's a long read. Let's see. Wheel of Time series. So Robert, and just so you know, John Smith, Robert Jordan died before he finished it. Brandon Sanderson took his notes. His Robert Jordan's wife sought out Brandon Sanderson, gave his notes, and Robert Jordan, I think he knew he was dying, so basically kind of left kind of instructions on what he wanted to do, and she gave them to Brandon Sanderson and said, "Finish this, please." Originally planned as a 6-book series at its debut in 1990, Wheel of Time became to span 14 volumes, in addition to a prequel novel and 2 companion books. Jordan died in 2007 while working on what was planned to be the final volume in the series. He prepared extensive notes, which enabled fellow fantasy author Sanderson to complete the final book, which grew into 3 volumes. The funny thing was, so when you read the audio book for the first, I think 3 or 4 books, what they do at the very end, they include an article or an interview that they did with Robert Jordan and kind of ask him questions, because he was apparently very involved with the creation of the audiobooks that were made. And so I thought that was great because how things look are pronounced differently. And I think he was involved with it. Like the, oh crap. I'm trying to remember all the names, but, the wizards, the witches, right, are Aes Sedai. That's how you pronounce it. But my buddy who read them all didn't think that's how they were pronounced. That he pronounced them differently. Anyway, so one of the things they were talking about was, inspirations and everything, and he kind of talked about how he wanted something different than what happens in the Lord of the Rings, where Gandalf just shows up and said, "Hey, you're going to go on an adventure with this and everything." And I'm like, and these guys are kind of all country bumpkins. And Robert goes, "Oh, I was kind of a country bumpkin, and we would have laughed at this guy." And I was like, "Well, you know, Eye of the World is not all that different from the beginning of for the beginning of the Lord of the Rings and the Fellowship of the Ring." So anyway, it's a great book series. Highly recommended. I started reading that after reading Terry Goodtime's Sword of Truth series. This is Sword of Truth series is basically budget Eye of the World and then where Terry Goodkind he gets a little preachy because he's an objectivist. He's very much an Ayn Rand acolyte. He starts getting very preachy in some of his later books. Jordan doesn't do that. Jordan's got a clear goal, and it's one arc. It's one it's one story arc that you're going through, and it's just a lot of content with it. It's one one catastrophe that they're dealing with. And in the Sword of Truth series, it's like, okay, it's episodic, and it's just like, dude, just slow it down for everybody. And they're coming out of nowhere. Terry's last book with the final boss being communist was hilarious and made so many people mad. I don't know why. I don't know why. I didn't know why they didn't see that coming. Hold on. What is the I gotta remember the 21 novels in Sword of Truth. God, Sword of Truth was a great book. I'm sorry, the Wizard's First Rule, great book. Stone of Tears, one of my favorite fantasy books. And then it's just like, all these are kind of Is it the Pillars of Creation? One of them is basically like it's a love letter to Atlas Shrugged. Man, oh my goodness. What was it, Warheart? Was that the last one? Yeah, to me, I was like, he had such he didn't have good direction in a lot of his stories. But he could be witty, and he had some good characters. But with the story, I don't think I don't think he really knew where he was going a lot of times. Very good foundation. Very good foundation. Anyway, so yeah. Then we'll talk about finish the stream talking about fantasy books. All right, and wait, where are my manners? Peter Venkman fan site. Welcome to the show. Because I was in the middle of talking about books and Nath talked about it. Peter Venkman fan site, who comes over from Blaine's Escape Corner, friend of the show. We have free will, so we may miss what he says or do otherwise. He's not here to micromanage our lives. Remember that episode of Futurama? I don't, off the top of my head, but that's very much when you talk to Calvin when I've talked to Calvinists in the past, and this is gonna be an interesting conversation when I do get, um, Calvinistic, or conversations with the Calvinist on here. Um, when I've talked to Calvinists in the past, they said, when I say free will, and they're like, Your free will doesn't trump God's power, though. Why are you limiting God?" I'm like, "That's not what free will is. Free will is a gift. Free will is something that God has decided He is going to give us free will. I have given you life. I have given you a measure of agency over yourself to decide whether or not you want to continue to exist. If you want to continue to exist, here's what you need. This is the world. Oh, this is what is right in this existence. And you need to accept that. I've given you a measure of understanding of that. And if you want to buy into that, great. If not, you can be without it. You can live without the goodness. Now, some people think that hell is annihilation. Some people think that hell is Sheol, is place. Um, I didn't see that one, Peter. Peter Venkman. I'm sorry, I didn't see that one. Fan site. Not. It's always good to get. That's all. I'm always glad when we do get finally a lady on here to with giving us uh, giving us feminine perspective. Um, you can choose to live with with what I created for you, or you can choose to live without it. Like I said, some people believe it's annihilation. Some people think it's a place completely devoid of goodness and enjoyment. It is a lake of fire. It is a land of suffering. It is the place where the devil basically subjects you to torture night and day in and day out, time forever, eternity. Right? Some people think that you're only there for a certain amount of time. All I know is that the way I feel is that I want to walk that path of good. I don't want to be bad. I don't want to do these things. I don't want to have these flaws that I have. I'm going to try my best um, to improve, to be better, to be more like the example you set with Christ. That's what I want. That's what I want for myself. That's what I want for my kids. That's what I want for my wife. That's what I want for my parents, my brother, my family, my friends, my enemies, people I don't know. I want everybody to do that. It upsets me when people don't because I think it's a waste. Thanks for bringing it up, fan site. That's great. I mean that. I mean that honestly. I'm not trying to be sarcastic. So that's a much more godly way to end this stream than how me talking about Robert Jordan, Terry Goodkind. Terry Goodkind was a raging atheist. He also bowed to the woke. Anyway, so fans, Peter Venkman's fan site. Thank you for showing up. Your Nath, um, John Smoth, Blaine, Alex Moore, Matt Felty, Veritax, Jab Slant. Let's see, anybody else in here tonight? Emmanuel Osorio, I knew you were going to pop up. I know Dresden's here. So Dresden, Porcupine Mayhem, Texan Italian, Nico. It's great, all of you guys who popped in, maybe still here, maybe not listening. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for being in the chat. Thank you for contributing to this show. You make this show better with what you guys have to say, what you folks have to say. I cannot state enough how valuable you are to making this show better, making this show more compelling, and they're there and being there for me to enjoy as well, because I enjoy doing this much exponentially more with you guys to interact with. To folks who are just listening, that's fine. I encourage people to join the chat. Maybe you can't, maybe you just don't want to, maybe you're shy. I don't care. Glad that I am creating content that you guys enjoy tuning into night in and night out. You catch it in the back end. There's no spoilers in it, but we just talked about a couple of different book series. Emmanuel Osorio, thanks for everything. It really helps when someone is there to help learn the Bible. Likewise. But yeah, to everybody catching this stream on replay, I hope to catch you live sometime. Everybody, we'll be back streaming on Monday night, and you guys have a very safe and wonderful, productive, relaxing, whatever you need weekend. Go to church, pray to God, have a good night, and God bless.